So right now, you and we sneak into the museum at night. The surf's going to be pumping tomorrow morning, and you and I are 20 years younger. Which boards are we grabbing to go surf on
Ooh,
at
that's
Bells
a
and
good
Winky? What's your
question.
favorite boards? One for Bells, one for Winky, let's say. There's a lot of people that watch this channel that have not been to Australia and don't know about your museum. Your museum is, I'm going to use the word prestigious. Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
Look, the museum is, I think it's a reflection of the power of the surf community in this town. We've been here 27 years. We've had, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of visitors through. And overwhelmingly, the vast majority of people just love it because we've got some really cool stuff. We've got, 2-century-old Hawaiian surfboards that were 2 of the first 4 boards used by the first 4 surfers in Victoria. And, as far as I know, we're the only surf museum in the world to have 2 boards of that vintage. And they're 2 of my favorite objects. But we've got an awesome collection of boards, 150 plus. We've got a Mark Richards twin fin from 1981. We've got Simon's thruster that he used to win
I was
bells.
going to ask you about that. That's legend. So you actually have this board. I'm probably going to put it up in this video as we talk about it.
Sure.
So you have the original thruster that was on the scene. It was 1981. For those that don't know, I'll put up some highlights of this. I just watched another video on that last night. It's epic. And Simon was ripping and proved the thruster, essentially.
Look, it's hindsight's a wonderful thing. but if you look at surfing now, we can directly trace, the way all the pros surf to how Simon changed surfing with the thruster. Like everybody talks about the thruster as a board and as a design. But in my mind, it is that. It's definitely a massive breakthrough in terms of a great all-round design. But I think the greater impact was actually the way Simon surfed the thruster. Pre the thruster, surfing was kind of almost equal front foot, back foot. On single fins and twin fins, you'd move forward and to trim and move back to turn. And with thrusters, you just stand in the same place. Pretty much, you do very little movement with your feet. And it just made surfing so much more physical for the surfers. They had to actually work to drive the boards. And, we see today where they've got to. There's been a fair bit of refinement of Simon's design, but for the most part, 40 years after we got it, the vast majority of surfers worldwide are still using that design. And the other thing that I talk to school groups about is 60 years after we got polyester resin and polyurethane foam, we're still using that.
It's still the best, to be honest. To this old guy, it's still the best feel. And by the way, Mark Richards is still making a lot of his boards. If you're not following his Instagram, by the way, you guys, it's incredible. And this guy, he's still churning out the most beautiful surfboards, and he's making these retro boards that I look at and I say, that's the board I rode in the 80s, right there. And then he just does subtle adjustments. It's beautiful. It's craftsmanship.
If you think about how technology has changed so many aspects of our lives in terms of the materials and the design of whatever, and then you look at surfing, it's a real throwback. And the other element to it is that, I think a majority of people still like to get custom boards, and that to me is, I think it's kind of payback to the shapers. Their business
For sure.
Has never really returned them a lot of money.
Yeah.
But they don't do it for the money. They do it so they can live the surfer's lifestyle. And yeah, they're like the last couple of years, board makers in Australia just have not been able to keep up. It's been phenomenal. The demand for new boards and just the work that's generating for board makers in lots of little local towns around the country and around the world. It's cool. That's,
Yeah,
to
Choco,
my mind, they're the people we need to really
yeah.
cherish, the shapers and the designers. Those people they're the heart and soul of what we do.
Yeah, it's the same in the US where board builders are overwhelmed by demand right now. And whether that was influenced by pandemic or not, I think it's just a general interest in surfing and it blowing up in the way that old footy guys and my dad didn't expect, which
Yep.
we were right. We were right the whole time. But
Yep.
so right now, you and we sneak into the museum at night. The surf's going to be pumping tomorrow morning, and you and I are 20 years younger. Which boards are we grabbing to go surf on at
That's
Bells
a
and
good
Winky? What's
question.
your favorite boards? One for Bells, one for Winky, let's say.
Okay, so
I'm taking Simon's board just for the historical. I won't pressure ding it. I've had trouble waxing it. But what would be your choices? You've got some beautiful boards in there.
you know what? We've got a 1970 Shane white kite, right? So it's a single fin. It's a little stubby thing. It was designed by Ted Spencer, who really in 69, 70 was easily one of the best surfers in the world.
Yeah,
and he walked away from it. And he became a Hare Krishna, and he completely walked away from it. But for a couple of years, he was, one of the pinnacle surfers in this country. He beat Nat consistently in 68, 69, 70. And yeah, he had this design that was the most popular shortboard in 1970, 71. And so I'd love to take that for a spin. What else? I think probably one of MR's twins.
Yeah, for sure.
The twin. But the other thing, we've got 5 of MR's mid-70s boards. So the Gorilla spray, the Superman spray, the Wiggle, water Wiggle. So there's 4 Ipers and 1 Brewer.
So that Ben Ipo with the King Kong, you guys have that board.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to put pictures of these boards for everybody to see in this, because they're incredible, like pieces of art. The IPA Stinger is something to behold if you haven't seen that, and I think kids today would light their head on fire if they see something like that.
And that's another, I think, one of the really cool things. We get, quite a few young people into the museum, and they just love seeing all the old boards.
Yeah,
they go,
it's cool.
Yeah, and so it's, whenever people come in, because we've got this special exhibition display area focused on Simon Anderson at the moment. And, one of my first questions to visitors is, have you heard of Simon Anderson? And majority say no. The older surfers always go, yeah, of course.
It's crazy.
But, in my mind, having been a mainstream journalist and now, having worked in surfing all my life, seeing the impact that Simon's design had, he should be one of Australia's best known inventors.
Yeah.
There's not many creative people who come up with something that is still in use 40 years after it was first made. But Simon's just doing his thing, shaping still, surfing still. It's that's a really cool part of it.
Yeah, last year at the WSL contest, they had an event at Newcastle, an event at Narrabeen, and they each gave away a board, one from MR and one from Simon. And I was just drooling. I was looking at those boards going, that's unbelievable. I hope they realize what they're getting right there, as that's a special prize, man.
Yeah, I think the surfers, the contest where they give, retro shapes, Pipeline Masters, they do it.
Yeah, Jerry's boards, yeah.
That's so cool. And the
really
surfers I know who win those boards are just like they're their favorite trophies.
For sure. I'd have that in my bed and sleep at night with that board. I can tell you that. So there's a lot of people who've never been to Torquay. They've never surfed Winky and Bells. And I have trouble describing the difference. I would love to hear what your take is on the difference between the wave at Bells and the wave at Winky. And I know Bells is many waves, but tell us what you think about all that.